backfill strategy. We're going to have the first group of people are going to be salesmen, and the salesmen are going to be working on Navy reactors, making those smaller. That's going to be out here at this national laboratory in Idaho, and working on those customers. Okay, the national laboratories here, Sandia, Lawrence Livermore, and also Los Alamos, are going to be working on technologies like this. This is Silex. Okay, so here are the salesmen. They're working on this kind of nuclear reactor, Navy reactors, and they're working on these more mining resources reactors here. Okay, and the first backfill strategy is getting the ore out of the ground. So we have Wyoming. We know that we have the Shinkolobwe mine, probably named because it's so rich. We have Shinkolobwe over in Congo as well as a way of backfilling. We just need to get it to yellowcake, crush it to yellowcake with a Krupnik crusher. Here's Krupnik right here. Again, these aren't people that I'm guessing. They're in joint ventures all over the world, in Africa, etc. We need to bring it down here to spin it. There is, John Podesta is, I believe, involved in this. Eunice, in Eunice, New Mexico, or at least a part of a joint venture down here for these next generation centrifuges. And we spin it and we bring it to our customers here at the TVA. All right. The other thing is we have centrifuge technology in Piketown and centrifuge technology in Paducah, Kentucky. We can gradually bring down Piketown first. Can do a demonstration project there with a whole bunch of centrifuges there, and then maybe move those centrifuges over to the Middle East when we invest in new generation technology, or maybe buy them on the cheap for 10 cents on the dime and buy them out here for the new national, which is privately owned, but we still call it the National Enrichment Center here in New Mexico. So backfill by getting it out of the ground is the first. We can also invest in new technologies from the different national laboratories, Sandia, Los Alamos, and also Livermore. And hopefully that'll come online. Now, I think what happened is it just didn't come online. This takes the gas stream it excites the uranium into a gas stream, and then there's 238s one stream and 235s the other, and it just separates off the 235 that we want to keep. I just don't think it ever got to the point of production, and GE and Hitachi bet on that along with a lot of other Navy folks here, and just never got there. And that's why at the end here, that's why they have this up curve in all the mining to do the backfill. I think it explains the backfill. I think it also explains why we do